Rusty, and crusty, but let's get into this story time. And I know a lot of y'all actually already saw part 1 on TikTok, so bear with me because I am gonna tell the whole story right here, right now. So this story is about Yoli. We're gonna call this woman Yoli. So this is why I would never, ever, ever do a love spell on anybody. This is one of the stories that my grandmother told me, okay? So there was this woman, we're gonna call her Yoli. And Yoli had this boyfriend named Mark. And Yoli loved Mark. There wasn't a thing that she wasn't willing to do for that man. She was willing to take a bullet for that man. She was willing to walk in front of a train, take a grenade for that man. However, it was never reciprocated because some way, somehow, Mark always missed the mark. Okay, he was constantly cheating on other women, and he was like dragging Yoli through the mud because they were the neighborhood's gossip. Because Haitian women, we love some good tea. We love to discuss what has nothing to do with us. So obviously the other women from the neighborhood would gather around and talk about how desperate Yoli is for that man and how nobody could understand why wouldn't she just leave him. Until one day, y'all, Mark comes home and Mark tells Yoli that he no longer wants to be with her and that he wishes to move on. Yoli does not take it well, okay? Because Yoli sat there and thought, okay, well, what can I do to make Mark stay? I'm gonna get a love spell on Mark. So Yoli went as far as to seek out a voodoo priest and goes to the voodoo priest and tells him that she wishes to put a love spell on Mark. The voodoo priest would tell her about the dangers of what she's doing and the things that she wishes for. And Yoli consented and said, I'm cool, as long as it means that I get to keep my man. So the voodoo priest would go ahead and ask her, draw some blood, and I'm gonna go ahead and make you this potion. So after she draws the blood, which is what would bind Mark to Yoli, before the voodoo priestess hands her the potion, he tells her, hey, basically, you have to come back every 6 months or even before the 6 months are up, because once the potion runs out, which it runs out every 6 months, you will experience a whole new Mark, okay? He might turn against you. So you go ahead and you come back before those 6 months are up. And Yoli would be like, all right, cool. So Yoli got the potion, went home, and fed it to Mark. Mark drank it, and for the first 4 months of their relationship, Mark did a 180. He became a different man. When I tell you, Mark was obsessed with Yoli. Whatever Yoli said, Mark did. If Yoli said jump, Mark asked how high, okay? Mark was up Yoli, and so much so that people from the neighborhood started to notice, like, yo, it seems like Mark really had a turnaround. Like, obviously nobody else in the neighborhood knew that prior to this, Mark tried to break up with Yoli because Yoli's keeping a good face. And Yoli was so happy that this relationship was working out for her and that this potion was actually working, that she would go and try to put her friends on who were going through the same things. And before the 6 months was up, I want to say around the 4-month mark, Yoli went back to the priest and requested another dose. So she got another dose and she came back and fed it to Mark. So like I said, she fed him the other dose before the 6 months was up. So Yoli would go on to have an amazing year with Mark. Like, she got proposed to, she got pregnant, and it seems like everything is just shaping up for her, and she is so excited to start her life with her new husband, up until life hits financially. So the next year, Yoli finds that she will not be able to go back to the voodoo priest and request a new potion because she was broke. And because Mark has been on his best behavior for the past year, why would she have to keep going back to keep this up for real? Maybe the voodoo priest was capping. Yoli was in for a surprise, because when she stopped going and the spell wore off at some point, well, let's just say that one day Mark woke up and Mark absolutely hated Yoli. And when I say hated, I mean he hated that bitch, okay? So trigger warning right now, domestic violence. These are the words I can't say on TikTok, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell y'all here, all right? Mark was whooping Yoli's ass every fucking day that he had to. Yoli left a freaking dish in the sink, ass whooping. Yoli didn't prepare his shower, ass whooping. He hated Yoli so much. And keep in mind, yes, Yoli was with his child. So Yes. So he woke up and he became extremely, extremely angry. And he didn't even understand why he was angry at Yoli. But that's just how his personality came out. Up until Yoli said, I don't think I can deal with this anymore. I'm getting my ass whooped. And at this point, like, Yoli has marks on her body. So people are starting to look around like, yo, what's going on? So Yoli decided to go back to the voodoo priest and request. She said, I don't have it, but guess what? I'm finna figure this out because this man is whooping my ass. So she goes back to the voodoo priest and requests another potion, to which she would get another potion, goes back home, feeds it to Mark. So now Mark, the spell starts to work, but now Mark is actually still in love with Yoli. Well, Mark went back to being in love with Yoli, but actually I would more so call it obsession, because at this point his jealousy was through the roof. If Yoli even said hello to a gentleman, it was clipped. For her and the gentleman, he was just angry, possessive, jealous, and all of this. And it seems like the consequences to Yoli's action, because it's like she didn't even recognize Mark from the man that she wanted. Like, she had no idea who this man in front of her was that was beating her every single day. And then on top of that, you know, of course, sexual violence and all of that was also taking place within their relationship. So one day Yoli decides to reach out for help, because obviously, like, what can she do? Like, she wanted the man and she got the man and she wanted him to be in love with her and he's in love with her, but like now he's like trying to kill her and her unborn child. So she goes to her family and tells them what she's been doing to Mark. And basically somebody from her family tells her this is not going to end very well. Like, this is actually going to end really bad for you and your unborn child. So her family decided that they were actually going to rescue Yoli. One day while Mark wasn't home, the family drove to their house and picked up Yoli while, like I said, Mark was gone. So they successfully get Yoli out of that house. And I don't know how much later until Mark found out that Yoli has actually ran away. They get home, girl, and they're like, all right, obviously the problem is not fixed, because Mark would soon come home to an empty house, wondering where the fuck did my beloved go? And we all know how Mark gets these days. So, well, Mark would come home and would notice there is no traces of Yoli. Yoli's clothes was gone, Yoli's belongings are gone, Yoli's shoes are gone, and Mark went absolutely ballistic. Okay, he absolutely tore up everything in that house and it found Yoli some way, somehow. This motherfucker managed to track Yoli down to her family's house. And if you know anything about Haitian men with guts, they got some motherfucking guts, because they will go to your parents' house and request your parents to give you back, basically. That's what Mark did. Mark pulled up to the family house and started bang, 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 banging on the door. And obviously nobody's opening the door, because the entire family has been warned, do not open the door for Mark. So what does Mark do? Mark leaves the house, goes down the block, gets rocks and freaking glass bottles and starts throwing them at the house while he is shouting the worst insults to humans, okay? Like, he is calling this girl, Yoli, everything but a child of God, while literally vandalizing their house. Well, Mark refuses to leave, because he stood outside that door and requested for Yoli to come outside the entire night, and he got progressively angrier. Well, the next day, he finally decides that he was gonna go home. But before he went home, he left the family with a very nice threat, telling them, oh, trust me, I'm just gonna go home to take a shower, because I'll be back. And guess what? Mark came the fuck back. And Mark literally was wreaking havoc for Yoli, because Yoli at this point is petrified, and she just wants nothing but to get away with Yoli, but to get away from Mark. And keep in mind, in Haiti, we don't have cops like y'all do in America. We're just gonna call the cops and they're gonna come and save us from our stalker. No, Yoli was stuck inside of that family's house along with the rest of her family, because the person who left the house to go confront Mark the last time, well, we'll just say that Mark beat the shit out of Yoli's brother, because Yoli's brother was the one to go outside one of those days when he got tired of it to tell Mark, yo, you gotta go the fuck home. Well, Mark beat him up really bad. So, boom. A week goes by, nobody hears from Mark, and everybody's just thinking, like, maybe it's done, maybe it's clipped, like, maybe he's actually over it. Right. Until he comes back. But this time when he comes back, Yoli wasn't even in the house. Yoli went grocery shopping at this point. So Yoli's not in the house. She felt safe enough to go grocery shopping because it's been a week and Mark has not been back. So when Mark decides to come back, it's at the point that Yoli is just not inside. And while Mark is outside causing havoc, requesting to see Yoli, here comes Yoli walking to the house and witnessing Mark slowly turn around and make eye contact with her, while Yoli drops all of the groceries and tries to take off running, to which Mark would take off running after her. Well, he wrestled her in the woods. He caught up to her, wrestled her in the woods, and beat the living shit out of Yoli and told her that if you do not come back with me, I will drag your ass back home right now. And as Yoli got up to go back to the house with Mark, thank God one of his family members, like I guess more than one, actually came outside and managed to get Yoli off of Mark. They got Yoli back inside of the house, and Yoli was hurt, you guys. Like she suffered serious injuries. And if you're wondering about the baby was fine some way, somehow. But she was born with a lot of severe issues. They got Yoli back inside of the house, and at this point, Mark is like, I'm gonna fucking come back. So that's when Yoli and Yoli's family decided, nah, we have to do something to actually keep Mark away. We have to do something to protect our family and to protect Yoli. So what they did is they went to a voodoo priest and got something called pood. If you guys don't know what pood is, it translates to powder, and it's a deadly powder. Depending on your intentions or who you get it from, or I don't even really know how poods work, but I just know that the family went to a voodoo priest, requested pood, and put it in front of their doorstep for any unwelcomed guests. So that means if you step on that pood and it was intended for you, that specific pood, here was the effects, that they were gonna feel like their body was literally burning from the inside out. So they actually got the pood, the powder, and they sprayed it in front of their door, and they waited for Mark to come back. And inevitably, Mark would come back. Mark came back, but this time he was greeted with a freaking surprise. He stepped on the pood. And this was basically Mark's downfall, because the minute he stepped on the pood, Mark would describe what felt like he was literally caught on fire from the inside out. So much so that Mark would drop to his feet, drop to his knees, and just scream in agonizing pain, like, "Ah!" Like trying to peel his skin off, like he is being burnt alive, and he is in front of the doorstep, just literally like can't breathe, and he looks like he's going into cardiac arrest. Well, the family weren't gonna go outside to save him, so I guess like a freaking pedestrian saw what was happening to him in front of the house, decided to help him. So a pedestrian felt sorry for Mark and got him to the hospital. And when he got to the hospital, well, nobody could figure out what was wrong with him, so they just kind of basically let him have a bed, and they let him have an ice bath, and it was the most uncomfortable experience for him, because obviously he doesn't need this ice bath, and he feels like he's burning up. Well, Mark would actually go on, and his health would just decline as time went on really badly, until one day he actually passed away from a heart attack. So yeah, and Yoli went on to have her baby, and her baby came out that child definitely came out with some form of developmental disabilities. So, and I guess the surprise of this story is, y'all ready? This was actually my mother's sister's story. So Yoli was my mother's sister. So yeah, don't fucking do love spells on people, guys. Don't do it. It's not worth it, okay? It's so not worth it. So don't do it. Don't do it. And when I told the story this way for a reason, because I didn't want to put myself in it, but it was actually my story. And they brought Yoli back to my house to stay with my mom, okay? So when Mark was outside wilding and doing all of this, I was actually one of the kids who were inside of the house, petrified, because our house was being vandalized. So Yeah. And Yoli, that's not her real name, by the way. Yoli proceeded on leaving. Yoli proceeded on living with us for the next 10 years after that. Like, she kind of just didn't leave the crib, right? But yes, that was Yoli's story, which would have been my mother's sister. So yeah, guys, do not do love spells on people. I guess when the story was explained to me, and they were explaining to me why our house was being attacked and why auntie was suddenly living with us, yeah, well, don't fucking stop. If that man don't love you, let him go. It's not flipping worth it. Let him go. Let that man go. Okay? If you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments. Leave a comment if you guys want more love spell stories. I definitely got more love spell stories because, like, I don't know why Haitian women just love putting people under freaking love spells. Like, I don't understand why this is a phenomenon. But like, I mean, do what you want, you know? This is your life. If you want that man obsessed with you, make him obsessed with you, okay? Because if that's really what you want, you're gonna get what you want, all right? But if you guys enjoyed this story, please go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe, please, to my YouTube channel, because I'm trying to get to 4,000 watch hours, not 4,000 views, 4,000 watch hours before I can be monetized on this app. So thank you guys again for support, and for 1,000 of you guys, like 1,000 of y'all, like that's fucking wild to me. So thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you guys for joining me on this ride. I have so many stories for you guys, from submitted stories to personal experiences. I got you guys. If you're seeing me from YouTube, make sure you follow me on my other platforms, because I am great on TikTok, okay? And also follow me on Instagram so I know that it's real. And if you want more of these weird stories or creepy stories, then you know your girl has a whole lot more, okay? All right, I love you, abducted aliens. Until next time, bye.